When you download the iHeartRadio app and put the WD and Shook Show on your list of stations, you will prove to the world that you're a little bit smarter than everyone else. The WD and Shook Show, your connection to the signs of the times.
Now, you have a source for the truth in the news. W. Dean Shook, End Time News. Your connection to the signs of the times.
And welcome to End Time News. I am your host, W. Dean Shook, bringing you an important update today. I want to start this with 4 men with Middle Eastern terrorist ties have been caught at the Texas border on September 10th. Was the United States closer to a terrorist attack on the home soil on the 13th anniversary of September 11th than Americans realize? At a House Committee on Homeland Security hearing on Wednesday, U.S. Representative Jason Chaffetz, Republican from Utah, questioned Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson about a report that 4 men with known ties to Middle East terrorist groups were apprehended on September 10th as they tried to cross the Texas border. Here's a clip of that exchange.
My concern is that I have a reason to believe that on September 10th there were actually 4 individuals trying to cross through the Texas border who were apprehended at 2 different stations that do have ties to known terrorist organizations in the Middle East. Are you not aware of that?
I've heard reports to that effect. I don't know the accuracy of the reports or how much credence to give them, but I've heard reports to that effect.
And I guess that's my concern, as you as the Secretary, does that information rise to the level of the Secretary?
All right, so that we needed to cut a little bit more of that. I'm going to explain why. That was Congressman Jason Chaffetz today grilling the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security over new information that the Congressman has, suggesting that 4 people known with terror ties to the Middle East were allegedly caught sneaking over our southern border into the United States one day before 9/11 of this year. And the Secretary neither confirmed nor denied it. Joining us now to Kelly File exclusive, Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz, a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, good to see you tonight. And so the reason I think we cut that wrong is because you first asked him, you asked him, have we ever apprehended anybody who's a known terrorist or a suspected terrorist trying to come across the border? And he said, sitting here right now, no specific case comes to mind. That doesn't mean there is none. Perhaps FBI Director Comey can think of one, but nothing's coming to mind. And then you, as a good lawyer, zeroed in and said, well, my concern is I believe it actually did happen as recently as September 10th, and it was 4 people who tried to come across and you apprehended them, and only then did he say, oh, I've heard reports to that effect. Do I have it about right?
It's exactly right, Megan. He's the Secretary of Homeland Security. You need to know this. He was sworn in on December 23rd of last year. It was, I thought, a simple question, but he says he doesn't know the answer to that. The answer, unfortunately, is yes. We captured, there are 466,000 people that have been captured crossing our borders over the last 351 days. Yet by Homeland Security's own numbers, 157,000 people got away. And the people we did capture, they come from 143 different countries. 13 were from Syria, 6 were from Iraq, 4 were from Iran. We had 4 people with known ties from a Middle Eastern country captured, having already crossed the border, our southern border, in Texas. 4 people captured from a Middle Eastern country with known ties to a terrorist country, and he doesn't know the answer to that question?
But wait, here's my question to you. Do you believe he didn't know? Or do you believe he did know and wasn't particularly inclined to share with you and the American people the fact that we've now got Middle Eastern terrorists coming across the southern border?
I don't know which one scares me more. Does he not know? Is he oblivious to it as the Homeland Security Secretary? Or is he going to be deceptive and just try to, run out the clock and not really answer the question? That's not who we are as a country. We have a porous border. We are worried about every story on the news tonight is about ISIS. I'm worried about them actually coming to the United States and crossing that porous border and getting into the homeland.
Mm-hmm. And you pointed out to him that the GAO has estimated there's only a 6% operational control of this border, only 6%. And we've got the Homeland Security Secretary sitting there talking about how he may or may not be familiar with the report you have in hand about these 4 terrorists.
And I asked him, what is the operational control right now on the border? What is the operational control? And he said, I don't know. How can he not know? He's the Homeland Security Secretary.
It's interesting. You know, when you watch that body language, even the clip we played where he's scratching the nose, that's always like a dead giveaway. Remember Clapper with the hand to the forehead, like not wittingly, and then he was like, it's like, I think he was either, or trying to do like a bewitched to get out of the room. Congressman, good to see you.
Thanks, Megan.
Well, are you feeling more secure now? Remember, he said that 466,000 people have been caught illegally crossing the border over the last 351 days, with 157,000 getting away. According to Homeland Security, those captured came from 143 different countries, including Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And today on Face the Nation, we heard House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Rogers on CBS Face the Nation that former disciples of al-Qaeda and 9/11 mastermind Osama bin Laden are regrouping in Syria under the name Khorasan. He warned their plans may even pose a more immediate threat to the U.S. than the Islamic State of Iraq, Syria, or ISIS. Al-Qaeda always has been on an immediate path of conducting Western attacks. We shouldn't forget it. Rogers told host Bob Schieffer that's more immediate with this Khorasan. We described it as a deployed al-Qaeda operatives who were engaging with al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula to develop a terror plot to bring down airplanes. They haven't lost their interest in doing it. House Intelligence Committee Mike Rogers from Michigan said that means it's serious. They have capability, financing, and people. All of that is dangerous. Fellow Face the Nation guest, Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat from California, confirmed Khorasan as a legitimate threat, lumping the terror cell together with ISIS and Yemen bombers as major groups that affect our national security. Each one of these is capable one day, or sooner than later, of a strike against our country, Feinstein said. This is not a good situation. Former Democrat Congresswoman Jane Harman of California worried what might happen if Khorasan partnered with foreign fighters who could get their hands on clean passports. The group could harm the U.S. even sooner than ISIS, she said of Khorasan. The New York Times reported Saturday that American officials are warning Khorasan may be the most intent of the various terrorist cells on striking the United States or its installations overseas. Well, you know, it's not only terrorists crossing our border, it's also, according to Leo Homan of WND, he says a lot has been reported about Latin Americans sneaking across the U.S. border, but there may be a greater danger looming in America's heartland in the form of nearly 2 million Muslims who have made their way to the U.S. since 1992. Unlike the surge at the southern border, most of those coming from the Middle East have done so legally, with the full support of the federal government. Scholars such as Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller, and Daniel Pipes have warned for years of the Muslim Brotherhood's doctrine of immigration, or al-Hara, as the long-term strategy to transform America into a different type of society, one that subjugates all other religions under Islam. Now another man has stepped up to sound the alarm. His credentials make him hard to ignore. Dr. Mark Christian, an obstetrician and former Egyptian Muslim with direct family ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, is talking a lot these days about stealth jihad. He says it's the Brotherhood's way of exploiting liberal immigration policies while working relentlessly through various Islamic front groups to pressure government, education, and religious institutions to make concessions to Islam. And they're doing it. Their plan here is to use the influence of the U.S. to further their own agenda. It's been going on for quite some time, said Christian, who broke with the Islamic faith in 2003, converted to Christianity, and came to America 2 years later. He changed his name, he settled in Nebraska, only to be threatened and harassed by Muslims, including some of his own family. The Muslim Brotherhood is so big right now, so influential, and so wealthy. They can do things their own way, he said. The only thing that's missing is the power of the U.S. military to be on their side. He explained that the Brotherhood's goal is to restart the Islamic Empire. And they think if they can restart it again, they can conquer the whole earth. The plan starts with immigration, U.S. immigration. The idea is to have so many Muslims that they become the biggest voting bloc in America and seize control, using our own laws to defeat us. And our immigration policies are allowing this right now. You know, with this just the tip of the iceberg, with the chaos and uncertainty growing around the world almost daily, more people than ever should be preparing for the event that will bring about the climax to human history. All of these things that are happening right now are not going to just calm down or go away. This is going somewhere. In other words, we need to be preparing for the second coming of Christ. The Bible describes how God's plan for a personal relationship with man had a definite beginning and will have a definite end, climaxing in the return of Christ. God does indeed declare the end from the beginning. You know, prophecies of the Old Testament, the early apostles, and Christ himself all speak openly of signs that will herald the close of the age. And so clear are these descriptions that we today can have no doubt that we're living in those last days. Maybe the best known passage of Scripture is in Matthew 24, 3 through 31. These signs will manifest in all aspects of life. The nations, their alignments and conflicts, nature, religious confusion, hypocrisy, society, the family, technology, and knowledge. Today, man lives in fear of catastrophic changes that are going on all over the world in world weather patterns. The more extreme temperature, more severe cyclones, floods, and droughts. In space, comets are coming out of nowhere, and they're making close calls to Earth, such as the one last week that came within 25,000 miles of Earth. A direct hit of even a small comet would be catastrophic. The sun has never been more unstable, solar storms at all-time highs, and there will be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. As well, there's concern over the harm that's being done to the earth through man's tampering with weather manipulation like mechanisms like HAARP, and through pollution and depletion of natural resources. What about society and the family? The Bible also foretells of a breakdown in society and morals. Here's what it says, "Know this also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God." What better words could describe our time and generation? Crime rates continue to soar around the world, as does the incident of domestic violence and marital breakdown. This generation's desire to please self first has severe repercussions on social behavior and people's expectation of the future. Drugs and alcohol, other pleasures, so heavily pursued by so many people, are just a temporary escape from man's deep unhappiness and discontent. Depression is driving many to suicide, while mental disorders and nervous breakdowns are more prevalent today than ever before. What about the increase in knowledge in Daniel 12:4? Here's what this says. This is important. "But thou, Daniel, shut up the words and seal this book even unto the time of the end. But many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." Our generation has seen a breathtaking increase in knowledge and technology unimaginable to even those of 100 years ago. Advances in communication, transport, medicine, material sciences, electronics, nuclear physics, just to name a few. These are all products of an age of increased knowledge and opportunity, which the Bible refers to as the times of the end. Now, despite man's preoccupation with knowledge and academic pursuits, Paul warns that many are, quote, ever learning and never able to come to the truth in 2 Timothy 3:7. Their desire for knowledge is misdirected. He goes on to say, and for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they